We're chatting today about love, life, chaos, and doing it yourself. My good friend Vinny Marone from LoudLove is on with me today. What's up?
What's up, Deanna?
I'm
This
so
is a
happy.
long time coming,
I
getting to
know.
chat with you.
I know. Not a lot of people who know Loud Love will know that you and I are friends from high school. We just attended our 25th reunion
What?
together.
No,
Not
no,
No,
not
you don't want me to,
25th,
like, give
really?
it up?
I'm
So,
still
uh
I'm still in shock by it. Yes.
I know, it's pretty wild that it's been that long, but there's been so many amazing things that have been happening in your life, since high school, like, and we've seen each other through some of those transitions, um, but we're here to talk about Loud Love because this has been your most recent, like, full-on head-first dive in. So, let's just kind of intro the band to anyone who's never heard Loud Love before. What does your music feel like, but in one sentence?
In one sentence, we are a genre-bending rock band with a folk heart and a punk rock soul.
I
That's
love
our
that.
tagline. Yes.
So, when did you start Loud Love? When did this become like a passion for you?
Well, it became a thing like a lot of things born in this era during the pandemic. I've been in bands since I was about 15 years old,
Mm.
and I never got to name my own band. I've been in bands called like Bahamian Fly, the Cherry Hoodlums. Let's see what else. Nobelium, which was like an element on the periodic table. Yeah, but I never got to name my own band. First Step to Failure, that's a great one. But when it came time to finally say, you know what, I'm going to make my own project, I was working with a friend of mine. We were both Soundgarden fans, and
Mhm.
we love their earlier stuff, especially. So we were thinking short, simple, alliteration, loud love. That's what it comes from. So born in 2020. That's where it comes from.
I
Yeah.
share that love of Soundgarden.
Yeah.
So, is it just Soundgarden alone, or are there other bands, or scenes that kind of shaped Loud Love's sound?
Well, and that's where the fun lies, right? So we are kind of all over the place when it comes to sound. Anything from funk to punk to heavy metal to R&B, reggae, ska. We kind of throw it all into a mixing pot. One of the things that I was doing for a while, before we became like a live touring band, was I was making a lot of music for companies or for individuals, things like that. So were contracted to make a lot of different genres of music, and I would either, outsource different instruments to friends of mine, or like, through like professional networks and stuff like that. And we would make all types of music.
Like you mentioned, because Loud Love's music has been so influenced by different genres and different sounds, and your music feels like both high energy and reflective, if I had to put it in kind of a vibe. So how do you balance like the full energy aggressiveness with being vulnerable?
I don't know. I feel like, when you decide to start on this journey of artistry, whether it's visual art, music, writing and releasing books and things like that, you're kind of opening yourself up. You're giving the world permission to look inward, into yourself. So it's like, um that paired with some of my influences personally were very much an open book their whole careers. So bands like Metallica, Sublime, Thrice, is another great example. Like they've worn their heart on their sleeve, and you've gotten to know all about the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. So I took a lot of pages from their books, and I said, you know what, if I'm going to put myself out there, I might as well be honest and open about certain things.
Yeah. So would you say that like there's an even distribution of like writing responsibility throughout the band, or do you kind of carry a lot of that?
Well, right now in our current iteration, I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna go on record and say it's my favorite iteration of. Of course, it is, right? Because it's the latest thing. But but it really is. It's finally. I feel like after 5 6 years, it's all come together. And right now, so we have our lead singer, Binks. Her name is Bianca Stanton. We call her Binks. We have Rob Yeager. He goes by Rob Makes Noise. He's also in a band called Reno Avenue. My good buddy Pete. We go back a long way with LoudLove together. Um, and then John Voris, who's the drummer of Jersey Calling, who I know that
Mhm.
you're familiar with as well. But now that we're all together as a unit, it's I want it to be as evenly distributed as possible. Although, like, I want everyone's creativity to kind of go into that melting pot that I said earlier and see what we cook up together. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds like you guys are really working together so far. And a lot of your music kind of touches on, a mixture of like life, love, regret. Are there any topics that are really difficult for you to write about, honestly?
Yeah. Well, so the last the last project that we released was called The Price of Addiction. There was a gentleman in the band at the time. He was the drummer, named Billy Minetti, and a lot of the concept of that album was his kind of life story. And but at the same time, because I was helping to write and because Pete was also helping to write, we opened up about our own struggles with addiction and
Mm.
with things like that, kind of take over your life, all these different vices that all of us have, right?
Yeah.
um, I found that really difficult to write about, and to kind of put all of that out there as much as I did. um, but once, I guess, like, once the band-aid was ripped off, it just kind of started coming out. um, Another thing that I find it hard to write about, but I always want to, but it's always harder for me to express, I guess, like, my deep rooted love for my wife, my family, and stuff like that. Like, I always find it difficult to find the right words, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
because it's overwhelming. I'm
Yeah.
like, these words won't do it justice. Like, I have to. It would be like an entire album's worth of words and stuff. But so those are probably the two things that are hardest for me.
Yeah. Has your family ever like held that against you? Like, you write all this music, how come you don't write anything about us?
Well, no, well, my kids maybe. But I have a song. It's called California that I wrote about my wife, and it's about how the two of us were kind of like opposites attract. So it talks about the different ways that we're different, but we also have the same desire to you know throw our bags in a car and drive cross country
Yeah.
and do it together and see all the crazy things and the weird things and the all inspiring things together. So, and I've written other songs for her over the years and for my kids, but they're definitely, yeah, my kids will make it known, like, hey, you know like, I only have tattoos of like a few of my kids because they're kind of expensive.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, especially something that detailed, right?
yeah, so the ones that don't have the tattoo yet, they let me know, like, hey, you have a favorite. It's like, no, I don't. I
Yeah,
don't.
time's ticking. When you gonna get our tattoo?
Right. Go get a job, lend me some money, I'll get your tattoo. That's the way to work.
Well, with this whole like dream in mind of like you and your wife traveling together, like is there something in the works for you to make that happen?
We always talk about it, but it's just it making it a reality is tough.
Yeah.
So we have 5 kids. Our oldest is going to be 22
Wow.
in less than a week. So yeah, I mean, right after you and I graduated high school, I became a dad not too long after that.
Yeah.
Um, and our youngest just turned 10. So there's a lot of different variables up in the air that make it a little bit
Mhm.
harder for us to be able to do those things.
Yeah.
But like, one thing, like, and this is where, like, I get a little choked up talking about it, because my wife is just so supportive of everything that I do. And we have an opportunity, meaning LoudLove has an opportunity to go overseas this summer to play our first shows ever internationally in the UK. And it's my first time ever going out of the country. So um, my wife has been just very supportive of that. And even though we're not able to go together, um, you know, it's nice to know that I have that support at home and that I can go and not, worry and things like that. But
Yeah.
it's hard.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that makes all the difference in the world when you have somebody at home who's willing to kind of like hold it down while you go pursue your dream. But you mentioned, like being so young, just a few years after we graduated high school, and here you are, you're a dad. And, that's usually the time where a lot of people at that age were like partying and going away to college and like, living their life and getting that experience in. Do you find that that affected your musicianship at all?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it definitely did. I mean, I was in a band in high school. It was that band First Step to Failure that I had mentioned earlier. And I was with those guys even after my oldest kids were born. We kind of
Mhm.
kept it going as long as we could. I think it was a total of 6 years. But once that ended, I put music making pretty much on hold for a really long time. And I would still play every once in a while at home. I would still record things here and there, but it was never anything of substance. You know what I mean? It was just
Mhm.
whenever I had a moment. Because after a few years, I was a single dad for a little while.
Yeah.
And so it was just me trying to, get my kids to preschool and figure out how I'm going to go work two jobs while, they stayed with my parents and stuff like that for a little while. And then, you know, things really turned around in like my later 20s when I met my wife. And like I said, she's been so supportive ever since. And ever since I picked that guitar back up and I started recording songs again, it's been nonstop ever since.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love how it kinda, like, took that pivot, like, you might have had a little hiatus for a while, but I feel like almost everyone goes through that.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. But the desire was always there. I always had like a hard drive full of songs, like I
Yeah.
mean dozens of songs that still haven't seen the light of day. So there's no shortage of ideas and stuff. But yeah, it just took a while for me to finally, put it back together.
Yeah. Well, the music that you write with Loud Love, it feels like it's built for live shows. So when you go and you get to perform these songs, like, what do you want people to walk away feeling after they see you?
I want them to feel hyped. I want them to feel like they just saw something that they're not that they never expected to see, especially at like a local or regional show. So
Yeah.
we're actually cooking up some stuff now that we've never gotten to do when we played live before. It was always something that was kind of at the back of our minds. But we're gonna start incorporating some like theatrical elements. I guess that's the best way to put it.
Oh,
Um, to our show, and it's gonna be we're gonna kind of try it out. Just a few songs in the set are gonna have kind of this very. It'll be you'll see it. When it happens, you'll know that
yeah.
we've implemented this. But we want people to come to a show and be entertained. We don't want to be a bunch of musicians who rush up on stage, set up our gear, and try to like cram 40 minutes of music into 30 minutes or like 90
Yeah.
minutes into an hour and try to get all of our stuff in, right? But
Mhm.
we want it to be an experience that people will remember. And we just played a show in Delaware at this venue called Halftime Sports and Entertainment.
Yes.
And you've been there before?
I'm familiar with it. That's a new arc, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And honestly, I didn't know what to expect from it. We just kind of we were added to the bill, and it was like, okay, cool, we're gonna go check this place out. I never been there. Man, I'll tell you, the way that show ran and the bands that played it and the venue itself was just this awesome atmosphere. Every single band just got better and better and better as the night went on, but it was all about that presentation and that
Yeah.
theatricality. And I feel like that's missing in a lot of, especially like local and regional music scenes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's great when you hear about a venue where everything ran so smoothly, from start to finish, and you just had walked away with a great experience. That's
Hmm.
awesome.
Exactly.
Well, speaking of amazing venues, you just recently played the legendary Stone Pony as well in New Jersey. So, do you feel like you accomplished like everything that you mentioned about how what you want people to walk away feeling when you did that show?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, playing the Stone Pony growing up was always a bucket list item. Obviously coming from Jersey, of course,
Yeah.
right? But even like some of my favorite bands, I used to so when I was a kid, I used to trade bootlegs through the mail with random strangers, because we didn't have the internet because
Yeah.
well, I'm old. You're much younger than me. I don't know.
That's not
You
even
just
true.
just snuck into the 25th anniversary reunion thing for high school. But
Yeah.
anyway, but no, I would trade bootlegs and stuff like that. And so many of my favorite bands played at the Stone Pony, right? So it was
Yeah.
like, that was always a goal of mine. And I got to do that at first with Jersey Calling, actually, when I was briefly in that band. John and I, my drummer in LoudLove, he's still in Jersey Calling.
Yeah.
Um, we got to do it together there. And so I just never thought it would happen again, especially not with my band, right? The band that I'm kind of responsible for. So
Yeah.
um, I will admit there were a lot of nerves that night, especially for me. Um, but at the end of the night, I feel like we set out to accomplish getting people interested and attracted, and we did just that. So it
Yeah.
was nice.
That's a good feeling.
Yeah,
Did
absolutely.
did any of your songs, maybe evolve more on stage than they might have in the studio?
Yeah, I would say so. Um, when especially like when I'm writing things that are inspired by like Sublime, for instance.
Mhm.
They do a lot of sampling and a lot of sound bites and things like that. So I record everything to a grid, like most musicians do nowadays. You have like that click track and everything's kind of to this very rigid grid. But songs like Lions, Wolves, and War, that we're re-releasing on our album that's going to be coming out this summer. A song like Hot Mess has evolved completely now that it's the five of us. It's like this really awesome, like funk driven
Yeah.
kind of rock tune, and Bianca just commands the stage when she's up there doing it. Um, those songs, I would say, Seeing Double is another one that's evolved a lot just by playing it live. We're still kind of feeling that one out too, so it could change even more over time because it's a song. It's weird. It's a bookend song where it starts out like this, like hard rock anthem, right? This kind of
Mhm.
riffy rock thing, and then all of a sudden, at the drop of a dime, it turns into this kind of like vibey reggae thing, right? With like a Santana kind of guitar solo in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that playing live is the best way to refine and to fine tune, your music that you've written and that you're writing currently.
Yeah. That's really cool to hear because I imagine there's, with every gig being different, there's gotta be times where you played a song live and it just took on a life of its own, and you're like, "Well, I guess this is how we play the song now."
Right, exactly. As a matter of fact, we're talking about the Stone Pony, and we played the song "Hot Mess," which has never been officially released by us. It'll be on our next record. But Bianca just ad libbed this part right before the solo. There's like a little, almost like a dance hall part in the middle there, and she
Yeah.
just ad libbed this thing. You'll have to. Here's a plug for you. Go watch the video on Loud Love's YouTube channel at loudlove.music.
There you go.
Um, but we were talking about it after the fact, and we're like, you just have to do that every time now. That's got to be just part of the song. And
Yep.
it's just one of those beautiful moments that luckily, cameras were rolling and we got, the soundboard recording of it. So we'll have it
Nice.
forever.
I can't wait to watch that.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that there have been a couple different inceptions of Loud Love over the years. Looking back at your earlier songs, your earlier music, or just the whole vibe, what has changed the most?
What's changed the most is wanting a little bit more of that ebb and flow of a live band.
Mhm.
And it sounds really simple, but just the way we operated before was so opposite to that. We were very much a studio only band. We operated out of a studio close to here called the Gradwell House
Mhm.
in Haddon Heights. So we did a lot of work there. But the record that I mentioned that's going to be coming out this year, it's called Reanimated. It's like a apropos title for a lot of reasons. But for us especially, we're recording it live in the room. There's going to be no click tracks. There's going to be no grids. It's just going to be us feeding off of the energy of each other.
Nice.
And that's how our sound has evolved so much, from this very rigid kind of, polished studio recording stuff. Not that that stuff isn't good. Don't get me wrong. It's great.
Yeah.
But to now have that, like, that ebb and flow where you're kind of starting and stopping when you want, when it feels natural, I
Mhm.
think that's missing in a lot of rock music nowadays. And we're excited to throw our old head ideas into the fray and bring some of that back.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that there's a lot of music or a lot of songs, maybe even partial songs that you've written that just have not come to the surface yet. But is there a track that you have released that you feel like maybe didn't get the attention it deserved? Something that you thought would maybe do a little bit better?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the track is our best track to date as far as like how much it's, how many streams it's gotten and how many, people that have found us for it. But I think it could have reached a larger audience once it's kind of released the way it was intended. So I did a song um with some, I guess I can just say it, right? I did a song with a couple of like pretty famous people that people might know. The singer is Lisa Loeb,
Uh-huh.
and the drummer just is a guy named Josh Freese, who is literally one of my musical idols. Just growing up, I loved everything that he played drums on, from A Perfect Circle to Nine Inch Nails. He was most recently in the Foo Fighters, things like that. So I've gotten actually to do a couple songs with Josh, which is really neat.
Yeah.
Um, but that song, it was originally written as this big sprawling orchestral thing. You know, my niece had written string arrangements for it. I got someone to write brass and woodwind stuff for it. We had a harpist from Sao Paulo, Brazil, play harp on it, and so many things that, were with it. Our good friend Alex Cross, who's like a sometimes member of the band, did this beautiful piano arrangement for it. So I think once that finally comes together, that's gonna hit pretty hard, and it's gonna be
Yeah.
awesome when it finally does.
Yeah. Do you have a lot of songs in your arsenal that are just songs you've been working on for, like, years that just haven't really quite hit it yet because, like, you're still tweaking?
Yes, yeah. There's actually one I just shared in the group chat yesterday. It's called Deliberate. I wrote a song years ago. It was kind of like inspired by, I don't know, that stomp rock music, that little fad that happened for a little while. It wasn't quite there, but there were elements of it. And I had this guy from Long Beach. His name is Mike Dangerously. Uh, produce the song for me, and I said, here's the bones of the song. Do something cool with it, right? So he sent it back to me, and it's just this amazing, everything you'd want out of a SoCal, you know, uh, jazz slash blues slash reggae hip hop thing. It's this beautiful piece of work. um,
Nice.
but we never released it. And because I always wanted to do like my version of it too, and I just never felt
Yeah.
comfortable. So I finally feel like we've got the tools and the talent to do it now with this lineup we have. So I sent it to the group chat, and everybody's digging it. So we're going to do our version. We're going to put both out side by side so people can listen to both of them.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to hearing that. Well, I know you personally, so I know, like, a little bit of the backstory, like, how you've transitioned out of the cover band scene and put more of a focus on Loud Love. What was toughest about that, would you say? Like, and also a second part to that question is how does being in this band affect your personal relationships?
Oh man. So, well, being in a cover band, I actually really love it. I know there's a lot of people who poo-poo the cover scene and all of that, and oh, tribute bands are taking over the world. It's like, well, that's business, baby. That's showbiz. But I enjoy playing covers, and like hitting the marks and hitting the notes and that people are familiar with
Yeah.
and all of that. But it is very much like there's not a lot of personal accountability, like you could play a song and it could suck and it's just like, all right, well that's a cover song. It's not a big deal. Whereas if you've written that song, if you put your heart and soul into it, like you bared your soul to the world and then you're playing it out, and there could be like one person in the club that's giving you some weird look about, oh, this is awful, right? That's gonna like it's like a dagger.
Yeah.
So having that emotional vulnerability when you're in an original band is real and it never goes away. It's like you're perpetually that little kid that's taking the artwork to your parents and saying, "Hey, how does this look?" And your mom's like,
Look
"Yeah,
what I
sure.
did.
Can we put it on the fridge, mommy?" "No, we don't have enough room. Sorry." Like it's one of those deals. So that's probably the hardest part of the transition of going from like a cover band or a band where even like when I was in Jersey Calling, I wasn't it, they're all original, but those
Mhm.
aren't my songs, right? And I kind of like I was just very much an ancillary character in that band for a little while. I didn't really fit or belong, but I made the most of being there when I was. But I didn't have that load on my shoulders of, hey, this has to sound exactly right.
Yeah.
So
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, there's higher stakes, you more skin in the game. It's yours.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if it sucks, then you suck,
It's on you, yeah.
you know?
So is that probably the hardest part of being an independent band, or is there something else that's difficult about doing this independently right now?
Oh man, there's so many difficult factors about being an indie band, especially in Philly.
Yeah.
Philly is a tough scene because and it's always been this way, and I just thought that that's how it was everywhere, but really Philly is a very unique beast in that there's a lot of gatekeeping in Philly. It's all about who you're buddies with and who you know, and you could say that about pretty much anything in every
Yeah.
business, but it's like really bad in in indie Philly. So we actually go out of Philly a lot to play, and we've made friends and we've made networking connections in places like York, Pennsylvania, like
Mhm.
Pittsburgh, like down in Maryland and up in Western Massachusetts. Like those places have a very open and fertile independent scene,
Mhm.
and they kind of and that's why, like, I think at heart, Loud Love will always be punk rock because we have that brick by brick mentality.
Yeah.
We'll go anywhere, we'll play a show anywhere to one person, to 100 people, to 1,000 people. If there's one person that leaves that performance liking your band, then that's a win, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think all of these other places really have that culture embedded in them. Whereas with Philly, it's hard being a local band from Philly. Um,
Yeah.
and then there's the whole like so one thing that I kind of pride myself on and that we as a band pride ourselves on is none of our followership is magically generated. We've never paid a dime for any, ghost followers or any boost in sales or streams or anything like that. Like everything
Yeah.
we do is organic. So, we might not have, 2K or 5K followers or whatever, but we pride ourselves in knowing that we get a lot of engagement from real people who are personally impacted by our stuff. So
Yeah.
that to me means a lot more, but it also makes it harder because if you're just, a booker or a talent buyer and you're looking at our socials and you're like, oh, they're still not quite at 1,000 followers yet. Why do I want to even bother booking them? It's like, well, that's because we actually made 1,000 followers want to click that button. You know what I mean? So
Right.
that's another kind of hard thing to overcome in today's day and age for sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can't imagine how difficult it is to have to combat that whole idea that, like, you have to impress people off the bat before they even hear your music.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's
that's a
always
tough.
kind of been like that too. I mean, you probably know being in the music scene yourself. over the years that you reach out to somebody to book your band, whether it's for a show or a showcase or some
Mhm.
type of studio thing. And, the very first question, how many people can you draw? It's like, well, I don't
Yeah.
friggin' know. Like, what time are you going to let us play? Like, how long are we going to play? Am I going to
Yeah.
like ask somebody to come out to spend their Friday night to see us play for 15 minutes at like 6:30 p.m.? Probably not. Right. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of factors that go into it. And, I've always been of the mind that like, promoters have a job for a reason. Um, they should be promoting their shows. And so should we. We have a responsibility as well. But promoters really should do their job and promote their venue and their shows, and everybody wins.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a great segue into my next question, and maybe you already answered it, but have you had a moment where you've thought or realized to yourself that talent alone isn't enough?
Yes. Yes,
Mm.
absolutely. Um, we have a song on The Price of Addiction called Croaked that's just about that. And so we're the old heads in the scene, especially if we're playing like shows at like skate parks and things like that, where you have a lot of younger folks doing their thing, and it's beautiful, right? That's why we all do it. We get
Yeah.
into it young, and we go at it for as long as we can. But what we noticed is there's a lot of people who are our age who are living vicariously through their children, and they're kind of putting their children out there to make it big, or whatever their idea of making it big is. And they're just throwing tons of money at it, and they're just kind of making weird moves behind the scenes, and it's like they're not even up on stage. It's like their kid, and like, does their kid even want this kind of thing? So um yeah, seeing that is kind of gross. And it's just a testament to the fact that sometimes it's not about talent. Sometimes it's about who can write the bigger check, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I can imagine that's gotta be kind of like a tough realization, when you're so passionate about something and then and then something like that comes across the table and you're like, does it discourage you at all?
It can be. Um, I don't know. It's definitely a bummer sometimes, but I've never let it sidetrack me to the point where I wanted to stop doing it because of it.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I I feel like that old adage, when we're growing up and our parents are telling us, "Oh, you'll never be able to make a living as a musician or as an artist of any kind." I'm here to tell you that's completely wrong. You can make a living. Now, can I make a living having 5 kids and a wife and responsibilities and all that? No, like, I can't. This is definitely a side gig at best for me. Um, but if this is what you want, you could do it, and you can make a very good living being a studio musician, or someone that sets up production at a venue, or running sound somewhere. Like, there's a ton of different ways. Radio, right? Even though it's not what it used to be, but
Yeah.
there's still so many opportunities to work in radio. I never let it deter me, because there's always an opportunity to do something somewhere. And if you love it that much, you're gonna dig and dig and dig until you finally hit pay dirt, and
Yeah.
it's gonna come to fruition eventually.
Well, now that we're kinda talking about, like, those realistic, highlights of being in the music industry, what's the least glamorous thing that you've had to do to keep this band going?
Oh god, the least
Because
glamorous thing.
I feel like, there's probably a lot of people who, like, look up to you and to other musicians that they love, and they think that this is, like, so great and wonderful and shiny and but it's not all the time.
No, it isn't. You know, it could be anything, as much as, or as little as, I should say, going to a show and literally there's a person at the venue the entire show. That still happens today. Um, and then, you know, the next show there could be a couple hundred people.
Mhm.
So there's those types of things. I've definitely made music, for a dollar, that I would have never written on my own in a million years. you know
Yeah.
but you put your stamp on it and you do your best. And you might not be the most proud of it, but you do it because you're sharing what you're good at with someone else who can't do it, right?
Yeah.
I always have a funny story that's, I played Freedom Mortgage Pavilion, which is an amphitheater, outdoor amphitheater. I don't know what the capacity is on that.
Mhm.
I don't know. What would you
I
say?
don't know off the top of my
Five
head.
thousand, 7,000, something like that.
Yeah.
I'm playing that one day, and then the next day I go to work and I'm scrubbing a toilet. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know, so it's like, mm, it's not
Yeah.
all, it's not all glamour and glitz and fortune and fame and all that stuff. Especially like when you're touring, right? So if you're touring and you're driving around, you're thinking, oh, I'm going to see this landmark and I'm going to meet these cool people and I'm going to do this and that. No, touring is just basically like rest stops and a lot of highway and a lot of those weird barrier bushes and trees.
Yeah.
That's touring. That's all you see. Like you
Yeah,
really
gas
like,
station coffee.
yes. Or in Josh from Jersey Calling's experience, gas station eggs.
No, no, that
No, don't ever. Don't
that's
just.
risky.
Oh, risky is a good way of putting it. Yes, I just put you on blast, Josh.
Oh, that's great. Well, I mean, it doesn't sound like there is anything, but tell me if I'm wrong. Is there a part of your story that you intentionally leave out because it doesn't sound as successful as you'd like it to?
I don't think so. No, and I think that kind of goes back to the idea of being, as open as I can be.
Yeah.
Um, there's definitely, well, I'm saying that, but then there's a part of me right now that's kind of going back into the LoudLove catalog, and I'm like George Lucasing that shit. Oh, am I allowed to say that, by the way? Am I allowed to drop an
Yes.
S-bomb? All right, my bad. So like I'm going in George Lucas style, and it's like, you know what? The majority of us did not want this album cover. There was one person that did.
Yeah.
And we went with the cover that one person did because we were guilted into it. But guess what? Now we're changing it back to the way we wanted
Okay.
it. Stuff
Okay.
like that. So I wouldn't say I've avoided things or like don't talk about them, but I have no qualms about kind of going back and making something better or something kind of refreshing something to make it even more of a clearer vision of what it was supposed to be,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. I know that like for a little while talking about Jersey Calling was a sore subject, especially because we didn't part ways amicably, I guess, when it happened,
Yeah.
or at least some of us did and some of us didn't. It was really weird. I have no qualms in saying that I was kicked out of that band. It wasn't like, oh hey, Vinny's just leaving. No, I was booted out, and I don't think I personally could have done anything differently to not make that happen. It was just that was the choice that was made.
Yeah.
Um, and in hindsight, and even if you asked me then, it was the right choice, because I was kind of added to that band. I was only supposed to play a show with them, but I've known these guys since we were teenagers,
Yeah.
and I love their band, and I stayed. Randy and I stayed in touch all these years later. So when I got the call to play their record release show with them, I didn't even hesitate. I was like, of course I'm going to do this. And then it felt so good that I just stayed along, and then it was convenient for me to be there for other reasons. And then when it wasn't convenient for me to be there, then that's when I was ousted. But
Yeah.
they're better off with the way that it is, because they're not, like having a third guitar player just kind of runs around and acts like an idiot. Not every band needs that.
I mean, it is so cool though to hear of something that might not have been a favorable experience, um, being now something that like you don't speak ill of, because that doesn't happen very often. There's a lot of disappointment in this industry and people tend to hold a grudge.
Yeah, I'm definitely a grudge holder. My wife reminds me of that pretty often. uh, that I could do better with the grudges that I hold. But I'm not going to say that the parties that were involved in that whole thing that I've forgiven and forgotten. There's certain parties that I definitely am a little bit more wary of. But
Yeah.
for the most part, I mean, John's in my band,
Right.
stuff like that. I talk to Josh on a weekly basis at least just to catch up on things, and Randy the same thing. Like we send each other memes on Instagram like every day. So it's like
Yeah.
stuff like that. It's those are the things where you got to kind of let that stuff go, especially as you get older. Like and we've known each other for so long. You got to let
Yeah.
that stuff go.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's pivot a little bit. I've got some rapid fire stuff for you, so a
Ooh.
little bit lighter, but so try not to think too hard on these, but first one, most underrated band.
Most underrated band. Like, do I have to go like radio band or like, local band?
I mean, you could do both. You could do one of each.
All right. Radio band. Most underrated. Jeez, man, you're putting me on the spot, aren't you?
Yeah.
Ah, there's got to be a good one. Oh, man, this sucks. Radio band. That's better than people give them credit for. I'm drawing a friggin' blank.
Mhm.
You'll have to cut out some of this dead air. Or
That's
you can just
okay.
like,
I'll just
or
let it hang.
you just let
I'm
it
just gonna
hang
let it hang.
and let people laugh at me. You put like a musical thing over it, like do 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 do
Do,
do.
do, do,
You
do,
know?
do, do, do.
All right. So here you go. People give a lot of shit to Nickelback,
Yeah.
right? But they are an extremely talented band. Their infrastructure behind the scenes is
Yeah.
pretty incredible. They have longevity. They sell a lot of tickets to shows. So screw your opinion.
Yeah.
Nickelback.
I 100% agree with you. I
Mhm.
have said this for years, and I will die on this hill that people who put Nickelback on blast cannot tell me that they were not screaming the words to Photograph at the
Oh
top of
yeah.
their lungs in their car as they drove down like the Jersey Turnpike. There's no way you didn't do that.
Oh yeah. Oh, I agree 110%. I'll still spin a track or two from them. But then
Yeah.
if I had to go local band, they're not so much underrated as just underappreciated. There is a brilliant songwriter that excuse me for that. There's a
Mhm.
brilliant songwriter who lives in Maryland. His name is Will West, and his band is called Paperback Tragedy, and he also plays in a band called Dead End Lane, and he also has a solo album out. So if you're
Okay.
listening to this, you have to check out Will West, Paperback Tragedy, and Dead End Lane because he's the music man. He writes these incredible songs. The dude should live in Nashville, where you are,
I
and
love
start
that.
writing songs professionally. That's how good he is.
Is he like, we need to have him on the next podcast?
Yes, yeah, no, you should. I can make the introduction, and he is a blast to talk to.
Oh,
He's
that's
a
great. I
brilliant
can't
dude.
wait to look into him.
Yes,
All right, so on the flip side, most overrated band.
most overrated band. Yikes. Well, am I allowed to say this from New Jersey? Bruce, not Bruce Springsteen, but the E Street Band.
Oh,
Uh,
dang. Yeah,
yeah,
you're gonna have a lot of hate for that, but I understand it.
and Bon Jovi, hate him.
No, now I'm gonna have to cut the episode early. I'm gonna
Wait,
have to cut the
wait,
episode.
Pearl Jam. Oh, another one.
You think they're overrated?
I can't listen to any of those. Any of
Wow.
those three.
I mean, we don't have enough time for me to pick your brain on why you think they're overrated, but I'll give you like, all right, one follow-up sentence
All right.
to support your case.
You know how there's like hate the face? Well,
Mhm.
Eddie Vedder is like hate the voice. For me, personally,
Okay.
Eddie Vedder is hate the voice.
I can understand that though, because he was part of that whole 90s wave of, like similar singers. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Um, Now the E Street Band, I like Bruce Springsteen when he plays acoustic by himself, and I like his
Yeah.
voice and all that. But there's just something about that band, like there's like a sound, and I can never. My buddy Rob in my band was putting it. He said it's like polka on acid or something like that. And I was like, yeah, that kind of makes
What?
sense. So that could be it
That's
for
hilarious.
them. And then Bon Jovi, I don't know. I can't.
Oh, I'm gonna let that one slide because I don't have enough time to tell you how wrong you are, but but it's all in good fun.
Yes,
All right, so before we close this out, I know that you mentioned that, in your eyes right now, this is a side hustle for you. This is something that you don't foresee yourself being able to create a career on, to support your family, right?
true.
And it makes sense when you think about things realistically because the music business has changed so much over the years. But without that in mind, what does success look like for Loud Love in like the next year?
Success for us is just going to look like the next time we play a venue to have more people there than there were before. Um, to sell some vinyl, that would be nice.
Wow. Okay.
And then just to continue making connections with people. I've been very fortunate to make some really meaningful and memorable and important connections over the years. And I'm hoping that that continues, and that people understand that we're here for the right reasons, and that we just love doing what we do. So
Nice. Very
yeah,
cool. I like that answer. Well, so in an effort to help you do that, loudlovemusic.com, that's the website.
that's
And
the
we can
website.
Perfect. And we can find you on socials at the same name, Loud Love Music, or just Loud Love.
So it's at loudlove.music,
Got it.
because there's a lot of loud loves out there, but there's only one correct loud love. So it's at loudlove.music. That's the one.
Perfect. At loudlove.music, loudlovemusic.com. Look it up, give it a listen, follow them on Spotify, do whatever you have to do. All those little buttons make a difference. Click them all.
Yes.
Thanks so much for being on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me. It was awesome to finally get to
Absolutely.
talk to you in this forum.
I know. No, this is very cool. And I'm glad you took the time out. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Deanna. I appreciate you.